You liked Nelly? Yeah. Did that affect how you felt about him?
I honestly can't even remember exactly the situation that he's talking about. I don't think me and my brother came in there doing anything crazy or doing anything spectacular, but if people ended up respecting us, so it changes the way they operate around us and so on and so forth, that's no problem.
So at the end of the day, can we now agree that maybe, just maybe, Ozee and Ocee were not the major reason the Big Brother Naija season 9, that's the No Lose Guard season, went the way it went? The Battle of Words. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Lucy's Quick One, talking the Big Brother Naija No Lose Guard season reunion. Guys, I know I missed episode 2. Life was lifing, but I'll quickly give you a summary before we now quickly talk about episode 3. Now, for those who missed episode 2 or you have even seen it, I would like to get your opinion. Did you think that at some point Onyeka and Wani would actually have a real friendship outside the house based off of how the entire game played out in the house? Now, while watching the show, I could see that Ebuka was holding his chair. He was almost running. Help me, help me. I was like, Ebuka, what happened? He was like, one is about to break my head. Onyeka is coming from here. One is coming. I was like, what happened? They were fighting. Why? Wani was fighting with Onyeka because Onyeka called her jealous. Onyeka, why did you call her jealous? That's because their friendship didn't work out. Why did the friendship not work out? Wani said, first of all, while they were in the house, they had a very weird energy. And she was getting a weird energy from Onyeka, so she didn't really think that, they will be cool after the house. And then after the house, she tried to connect with Onyeka, but Onyeka wasn't bulging. So Ebuka, while he was able to dodge and then he was able to sit on his chair, was like, okay, Onyeka, what happened? Onyeka was like, well, number one, I put it to you. I'm a lawyer. You were jealous of me. Wani was like, baby! How? So Onyeka was like, of course, Wani did talk about some insecurities, and then she actually has some features in her body, like she has a big bum and everything, so she probably thinks that Wani was kind of threatened, and Wani was like, that was not the issue. The issue was that she had weird energy from Onyeka, and then when she tried to reconcile with Onyeka wasn't giving her space. And then while everybody was commenting and saying, oh my god, Wani finished Onyeka, and some other people were saying Onyeka finished Wani, to me, I just thought to myself that I just think that it was more of an alliance than a friendship in the house. To me, I saw Onyeka and Wani's relationship as a strategy, in the sense that Wani knew that Onyeka was close with her guy, Sean. So it was a classic case of keep your enemies closer and your friends close. So she just decided to keep Onyeka closer to be sure of how Onyeka was moving and to be sure that Onyeka was not really like going to her guy and stuff like that. Now, Onyeka, on the other hand, was just trying to play her game and understand everybody, and that was one of the reasons she got close to Wani in the first place. Now, moving away from that, we had the whole Chinwei apology to Nelly, because at some point, Nelly and Chinwei did not have a good relationship in the house, and that was coming off from the fact that, of course, Chinwei accused Nelly of being an anini, so there was an apology, and then Zion didn't apologize for calling Nelly an Ashawood, and then people were like, Zion, we don't know what your deal is, but don't worry about it. We're moving on from that. Now, let's quickly now talk about episode 3.
A lot of tension happened in the house, but it was when we came out that the main deeds were done.
I know a lot of people were complaining and saying that, oh, episode 3 was cut in certain ways. People have been complaining about adverts and everything. But I remember what I said at the beginning of this reunion review that I gave. I said, let's just enjoy, because most of the times we don't really get what it is that we want, but however, we do expect that some of the things that were not rehashed to be rehashed, and then we would like to know things that are going on. So for me, when it comes to episode 3, there were 3 major stories that really caught my attention. The first one would be that of Chinne and Nne. When they say that blood is thicker than water, I think that Big Brother sometimes can actually break the ties when it comes to blood, and it was mentioned at the beginning of the show, where they were like, will families stand? Will relationships stand the test of time? Now, we've already had DJ Flo and Lucy break off their 10-year relationship. Now we're having family members saying that they're no longer interested in being cool with each other. What happened? Chinne and Nne came in as a pair, but unfortunately, things happened in the house. And then while Nne was talking in the reunion, she said they have decided to go their separate ways because they could not come to a middle ground. But Nne kept on saying that she wouldn't divulge what actually happened between herself and her aunt. because her family is already involved, and they even tried to settle them, but there was no resolution. So Ebuka was like, okay, Nne, if you don't want to say anything, let's move to Chinne. Maybe she'll say something. Chinwe accused Nne of being disrespectful, and that's the reason they couldn't see eye to eye. However, she blamed herself for the whole situation because, of course, she's the reason Nne actually came into the Big Brother house in the first place. And to me, I just felt like while they were coming into the house, didn't they think that things like this will happen? Why is it that it's the disrespect that caused the whole thing? However, I would like to write off what Nne said. Nne said certain things cannot just be divulged. So maybe there was more to what actually happened between Chinne and Nne that we did not know about. But watching the show, we already knew that the whole disrespect, you're not respecting me, you're trying to lord over me, would be an issue. And looking at the fact that, you know, the show was already ended and they were moving with the whole thing and they couldn't still get a resolution, I don't know. I feel bad that their relationship has been strained because, you know, they came in lovey-dovey. Nne and Chinne, especially Chinne, was like everything she does with her niece and all of that. It's sad to see that end. However, I would like to know, what do you think about the whole dynamic of Chinne and Nne ending? Do you think it's Nne's fault or do you think it's Chinne's fault? Now, moving on to another spectacular, or I would say another topic that really caught my attention, despite all the things that were said at the reunion episode 3, will be the whole battle between the Aces and Strees. Ebuka had to talk to Toby Forge. Okay, Toby, why is it that you saw Sooj as weird? And Toby was like, there was a weird energy. I wrote it down. I have my pen. I wrote it down. So Ebuka asked Mayor, what do you think was happening? Mayor was like, there was a weird energy. Ebuka even had to ask Tofa. Tofa was like, I didn't even notice anything, which is actually very possible. But at the end of the day, when I looked at the whole Aces and Strees situation, especially with Mayor and Sooj, I realized that it was actually because of Nelly that probably Mayor was not cool with Sooj, because Nelly obviously came out and said, see, I know that my interests were Mayor and Sooj, but I had to go for the best available man, the man that was able to chase me. At the time, it looked like Mayor was interested in myself and Ruthie, and I really didn't want that dynamic, so I decided to just move to where there was peace. And then Ebuka had to ask Mayor, do you think that maybe the whole Nelly going for Sooj is the reason you are not cool with Sooj? And while Mayor was quiet and didn't really say anything, his non-verbal cues, his countenance just gave him away like, guy, you didn't play me sharp, but anyways, we move.
We try to do something new. You can be entertaining, you can be on the platform and they can see you, but you can do it from a place where you have respect and you can teach other people. Now they're unhappy because it wasn't entertaining, it wasn't dramatic.
Moving away from all of that, there was a sprinkle of the Ocee and Ocee situation whereby Ebuka was like, he thinks from the audience, Ocee and Ocee trying to bring the whole responsibility into the whole game was the reason people were not free. So Ebuka had to ask Femi, he had to ask Nelly, he had to even ask Handy at some point that, were you guys scared in the house of Ocee and Ocee? Now, a lot of people were like, some people were scared. Nelly owned it up and said, of course, you know, because they are the Mbadiwe twins, because these guys are already established, nobody was trying to get on their bad side because they wanted favors outside the house, which is normal because survival of the fittest. You've made the connection in the house and then you want to live right by this person. So if she feels like people were trying to walk carefully around the eggshells that Ocee and Ocee had put up because they didn't want to like offend these guys, so that when they come out of the house they'll be cool and the connections can flow, because of course Ocee and Ocee somehow, if you watch the show, sold that, oh, I'm connected to this person, I know this person, I have been here and I've been there, and then of course people were just trying to like gain those favors. So while Nelly was saying that, Ebuka had to ask Ocee and Ocee, guys, is it true that you guys kind of used your status as a way to control the narrative in the house? And while Ocee was like, well, I don't think that was what happened, Ocee was like, see, let me tell you something. I just thought to myself that you can't entertain people and not be dramatic, or there will not be chaos, there will not be drama, there will not be scandal in the house. And then Ebuka was like, are you sure? Now we moved over to the third one that actually caught my attention.
She also mentioned that she feel Wani, they have large fan base outside. So that was why I said that.
So it's not that she said it?
No.
Cassia, Victoria, Onyeka, and Ocee. Now, of course, Ebuka came to talk to Cassia because this particular one, this question that he asked Cassia, was quite a controversial one for those who watched it, where Cassia had to say that, you know, Onyeka was using Wani and other people, getting close to people for strategy, and then at some point she had to apologize, and it caused a whole lot of conversation on social media to the extent that people had to even drag Ebuka, saying that Ebuka kind of intimidated Cassia into apologizing to Onyeka. So Ebuka had to ask her, see, redeem my name because people have called me different names. Why did you apologize to Onyeka after you made that comment about Onyeka using Wani or other people as a strategy? And then Cassia was like, Onyeka had divulged certain information to her, but Onyeka didn't explicitly say that she was coming close to Wani because she wanted to use as a strategy. And Ebuka had to ask her again and again so that those at the back would hear that it wasn't the one that pushed Cassia into apologizing. Cassia just probably realized that she may not have all her facts in check for her to have apologized. And I was like, Finally, Victoria was allowed to speak, ladies and gentlemen. And she was like, when Cassia and Onyeka were having their back and forth, she was not even interested in putting her mouth there, whether or not Cassia was her friend. But Cassia asked her, were you not there when this happened? And she wanted to give her side of the story, but Onyeka was not giving her the audience, and that was why they had the back and forth. So Ebuka now brought out a shotgun and said, so do you think that, the way you and Onyeka, your relationship panned out in the house, do you think it was because of Ozee? And Victoria was like, no, I don't think so. At that point, Ebuka almost lost his breath. Ebuka was like, you say what? Victoria was like, Ebuka, please, I want to just make my point. I don't think that Ozee was the reason myself and Onyeka were not friends. And I was like, even I do not really think so. So maybe to you, Victoria, you maybe think that way, but that was not what was playing out because, of course, we all know that somehow Onyeka was not cool with the fact that Ozee was always going for Victoria, maybe like always chasing after Victoria while she was very available as a friend or as a bestie, or the fact that it looked like, her bestieship with Ozee was being threatened. It's almost like the way Wani was feeling with Sean and Onyeka's relationship. That's the way Onyeka was feeling with Victoria and Ozee's relationship. So while Victoria kept on arguing and saying that Ozee was not the reason she and Onyeka were not cool, Ebuka just kept on nodding his head, and that was how the entire episode ended. And a lot of people were complaining because it just felt like the conversation was not really hard. What's Onyeka going to say? What's Ozee going to say? Maybe in episode 4 we'll get to know about it. But really, looking at how everything has turned out now, do you think that maybe Ozee wasn't Ozee the reason? I want to know why Onyeka and Victoria didn't have a good relationship in the house. I would like to know in the comment section. I got you with more right here on this channel. Till next time, remember to enjoy every moment. I have my pen and I'm still jotting things down. Bye.